Are women who don't want to date DL men homophobic? Let's unpack the domino effect rhetoric such as the DL whisperers has on cishet women, men, trans women, and gay men. According to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, African American women experience intimate partner violence at a rate 35% higher than that of white females. African American women comprise 8% of the U.S. population but account for 22% of the intimate partner homicide victims and 29% of all female victims of intimate partner homicide. Further, an analysis of U.S. homicide data found that black females are murdered at more than twice the rate of white females. In that study, 58% of black females who knew their offender were killed by a current or former intimate partner. Providing women with the baseless machinations of a former glory hole employee sets them to be a part of these very statistics. Socially and historically, we understand that often black women are not seen as victims, but rather victim blamed. As stated in a previous video, homophobia isn't about being gay. It's about punishing men who have an air of femininity about them, thus forcing them to walk upon the tightrope of masculinity. The things listed by the DL whisperer exacerbates these crude conditions. Gay isn't about same-sex attraction. It's about setting arbitrary conditions on masculinity and then telling men if they don't meet them that they're not man enough. And what happens when a man is positioned in a space where he has to prove his masculinity and manhood? Violence often ensues. Being DL isn't about wanting to have your cake and eat it too. It's an act of survival in a society that asks you to be authentic and then punishes you for it. Think of it as respectability politics. Remember our aunts and mothers and family members who would put on their white voices or would completely change their demeanor in order to assimilate? That's exactly what being DL is. It's about men who are queer assimilating to the expectations of toxic or heteronormativity in order to survive. Therefore, when we talk about the solution, it can only come from addressing the initial issue. Now, do I think a woman who doesn't want to date a DL man is homophobic? Absolutely not. I think that is her preference. She has the right to honesty and she has the right to know. However, one thing that I will say is that everybody in this world, irregardless of man or woman or gay or straight, everyone is self-serving and people are going to do what they're supposed to, and that is survive and that is adapt. So therefore, you can't expect other people, or I would say you can't rely on other people being forthcoming with you. Otherwise, you'll always be manipulated and deceived. I say this in reference to the conversation around HIV/AIDS, which in and of itself is innately homophobic because we never talk about HIV/AIDS unless, of course, something queer is involved. It's a stigma that is associated with our community. And I often found that quite laughable because why is it that we've never considered sexual health or talk about sex ed outside of condoms, which seldom are used anyway, until gayness is brought up? I think that if you are someone who is afraid of STD/AIDS, then you should always be wearing condoms, you should always be on PrEP, and you should always be getting tested regularly 6 months. Oftentimes when we talk about heterosexual couples, the only concern is whether or not you're going to have a baby. Sometimes preference is the umbrella that we use to disguise homophobia.